you these 4 money skills. Please call us today at 727-422-7761 to schedule your complimentary, no-obligation meeting.
Hi, this is Tiffany Warner, your host of Moments of Clarity. Living with a mental health disorder is not easy. If you or someone you know are struggling with this, please know it's so important to seek treatment, and I'm here to help. Please visit the website at momentsofclaritywithtiffany.com to view blog posts and resources on this site to help educate and inspire you to take action, because there's no shame in seeking help for mental health. While you're there, please take a few seconds to sign up for my email list. You'll get some extremely valuable educational and entertaining content that can be sent right to your inbox each week. Plus, you'll also get instant and free access to my guide on managing your anxiety. You can also follow me on Twitter at MOC with Tiffany and at Facebook at Tiffany Warner. And once again, the website is momentsofclaritywithtiffany.com. Thank you so much for your support and for listening to your show, because change can only come when we stand together as one.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
We are back to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany Warner. To join in the discussion, call 866-826-1340. Now, here's Tiffany Warner.
Hi, and thanks so much for listening. This is Moments of Clarity. My name is Tiffany Warner. I'm a licensed mental health counselor, and I'm your host. Today we're talking about emotional overeating and what the difference is between healthy eating and emotional overeating. And it can be a very, very toxic thing for some people, especially if they're not addressing their core emotions or what's going on and the trauma in their life and hiding it and trying to mask it. It's another form of addiction. And my guest today is a published author, a former overeater herself, and is talking about this and her book coming out, or that was just published, called Let Go of Emotional Overeating and Love for Your Food, a 5-point plan of success. And it was published last fall. And I want to welcome back to Moments of Clarity, Arlene Englander. And thank you so much, Arlene.
Thank you for having me on.
So before we went to the break, and before I get into the next segment, I want you to be invited to call in. We welcome callers 866-826-1340, 866-826-1340. If you have any questions or stories or accomplishments you've faced in this field, in this subject matter, but it's something that I think we all need help with, and it can be applied to so many other things. 866-826-1340. Arlene, welcome back. Before we went to break, we were talking about the tyranny of the shoulds. And so please educate.
Wonderful phrase. Yeah.
Please educate us.
Well, as I said earlier, it's really important that we tune in to any pain-producing thoughts we might have that we are trying to distract ourselves from with food, rather than being able to truly enjoy our food and eat for the satisfaction of hunger, which is the healthy way to eat. Mm-hmm. And some of these pain-producing thoughts can be negative self-labeling. They can be shoulds. I should have done this. I shouldn't have done that. Mm-hmm. And if we're at college, this could apply, for example, to feeling we should or should not have done something on a date or at a party, rather than just learning from that experience and moving forward from it. Or maybe it can have to do with an exam. I shouldn't have studied this, or I should have studied that, or horrors that I got this or that question wrong, when in actuality, we can learn from that experience. We might even have a meeting with the professor and explain just how important it is to us that we do better the next time, and really impress him or her with our attitude and move forward in a positive way. One of the difficulties, one of the sad aspects of all of these pain-producing thoughts is that they freeze us in time looking backwards rather than really seizing the moment and getting the opportunity to really move forward in a more effective way. Mm-hmm. A final one I'll share is the what if. And as you well may know, Tiffany, those are the building blocks of anxiety. Mm-hmm. What if this is going to happen? What if that? And when we notice this and come up with a plan and say, well, just how likely is it that this or that might happen? What could I do to prevent that outcome? or if that outcome did occur, to handle it successfully. When we speak to ourselves as a compassionate yet logical friend would do, we become more effectively self-soothing, and we take away a lot of the former power of emotional overeating. We're freer then to enjoy our lives, which is a very big part of what I recommend with my clients. My weekly homework is almost always to have fun. and
I want to be your client.
Well, no, I try to be my own client too. I really try to have a lot of interest and to be very much involved in sports and all sorts of meaningful and productive activities. And in my work and in my book, Let Go of Emotional Overeating and Love Your Food, I advise clients to become creative in finding many different ways of making their lives meaningful and productive and fun.
I mean, it's so true, and it's more the time, like what you were saying about the time that it takes away from just everyday life. So with emotional overeaters, it's got to be the same as alcoholism, or the same capacity of pushing aside responsibilities to self-medicate in somebody's own choice of ways.
Yes, there are very strong similarities, but of course a major difference is that we cannot be abstinent from food. And so that's the beauty of learning to make peace with food, learning to really relax when we sit down to eat, to savor the foods we love in small portions, to tune into just how hungry we are, just how full, and learn by really being there in the present mindfully how to stop just at the point of satisfaction without overeating. I break that down in my work and my writing into 4 or 5 very simple steps, and that I've alluded to already. And the beauty of learning that is that it's a skill that we can practice throughout our lives.
Yeah.
And when we learn how to eat mindfully, when we learn how to handle stress effectively through many different means, including CBT, which I've spoken about earlier, but also exercise and hobbies and reaching out to others, and perhaps on some occasions reaching out to somebody professional can be a healthy thing to do. I mean, there may be a college counselor who one can reach out at if one is in school, because most of them have seen a lot of these issues and can help us. Go ahead.
But we have a lot of older listeners too that are in the workforce and things that just don't have time to, pack their lunch, or they run out, or they're on the road and they just go through drive-through, and there's a lot of shame and guilt into that shouldn't have eaten that or whatnot. And I have so many clients in my office that they also suffer with other eating disorders such as bulimia and anorexia, which is a form of control or need of control because of that anxiety. It didn't have
that also has a lot to do with how we feel. All of these disorders have a lot to do with how we feel about ourselves.
That's what I was just going to get at that too. The self-esteem component is really not in place there. And then do you find a lot of learn
how to become? Go ahead.
Do you find a lot of bulimics come from compulsive overeaters trying to reverse the pattern in a negative way?
Well, unfortunately, there can be a lot, of transitioning from one of these behaviors to another, or coexisting comorbidities of these behaviors, and that's partly because so much of this really has to do with issues we may have with our self-esteem. Not really feeling good about ourselves, not really knowing, as we spoke about earlier, how to be compassionate towards ourselves, self-soothe ourselves, build up our confidence. And so we go either to the escape of binging or the escape of restricting in an attempt to somehow achieve some goal of perfection.
Mm-hmm.
Perfectionism plays a big part in a lot of eating disorders. And it's really helpful for us to learn that we don't always have to be perfect. A much healthier and happier way to live is, as I refer to it, I'm sure you've heard the saying that the perfect is the enemy of good. And one very good way of working out a solution to this is by learning to embrace perfectly good living, perfectly good performance. A minus B plus living, as opposed to feeling we have to be A plus in every single aspect of our lives.
Mm-hmm. To become perfectly imperfect, pretty much.
Exactly. And self-accepting and accepting of others.
That makes a lot of
So
sense. Accepting of ourselves is hard to do.
It is possible, though, and it really is a so much more enjoyable way to live. As one who's been there on the other side, I can really say that this is such a more enjoyable way of living and of eating. There are other aspects of this that I cover in my work and in my writing. In the 5-point plan, stress is one of the first aspects.
Let's go through your 5 points. I'm trying to figure out if we should do it before or after the break, maybe right after. Yeah? No?
Okay. I don't know exactly how much time we have. But
we have until 1, so we've got about 20 minutes left. Let's do the 5-point plan, then go to break.
Excellent.
That's okay. So let's talk about what is your 5-step plan?
Well, the 5-point plan, which I link together with an acronym, which starts out with, because everything I suggest, I really like to make easy to remember. Having read thousands of books on this subject, when I was struggling with the issues and very little of it stuck, I have 2 quick questions. The first is, am I doing what's best for myself? And self stands for stress, S-E, exercise, L, loving my food, which has to do with mindful eating, and F, filling up on healthy fluids and healthy foods first. So am I doing what's best for myself? And then the second question of this 1-minute monitor is, am I a quote-unquote light eater? Which means, am I eating mostly when it is light? I didn't realize this, but I've been a proponent of intermittent fasting for half my life, and I didn't realize what that was. But what I'm advising in the book is that people try to alter their body rhythms. So they're up early, they're exercising, they're active, and by the time the sun is starting to go down, they're winding down too. So they're really not eating much at all after 6 or 7, 3 or 4 hours prior to their bedtime. And when we orchestrate our day that way, it's much easier to avoid unwanted excess eating because we're not hanging out for 6 hours in front of screens.
And snacking.
You know what I'm saying by the chuckle. Yeah.
Yes,
a lot of people walk into their house at 6 p.m., the only thought in their mind is,
what's for dinner?
Which screens am I going to watch? And that's where they are for the next 6 hours. And that, as you and I know, especially if you're feeling vaguely stressed and not dealing with it, is not going to do it for you. You're probably going to want to dissociate further with something else in your hand, like cookies or chips or whatever else is your snack food of choice. So one way to handle that is to change your biorhythms to the point that you're not staying up all that late and that you're involved in activities that really are meaningful and productive. One of the examples that I share in the book is it's not enough to have a good book available. You want a great book. You want something that is really going to